This is telling you that the coefficient of x squared, which is this a, is 1. Now when that happens, this is not too bad in factoring. Now, the goal is to take what you see here and factor it so it looks like this. Okay? This is our goal when we factor. But the question is, how did we get there? Well, this is the process that requires us to go backwards. If we took what I wrote in blue and FOILed it, it's going to give us the answer that we have above. But the process is what you need to understand. In this case, we're going to begin with x squared plus 2x plus 20, and let me show you how I get to the blue. Well, the first term is x squared. This plus is going to be part of it. Now, here's the process. You're going to put a blank, a circle, a blank, and then behind the second blank, you're putting plus 20. Now, the reason for that is we are creating the process of grouping, what we did in the last section, because this middle term, 9x, is going to take 2 places in this process. Now, when we begin, we go for the circle. And you're going to say, well, how do I know what goes in the circle? Very easy. You take this plus sign times the sign you put inside of the circle. These 2 signs, because we're factoring, must multiply to give me the positive sign in front of 20. Well, if you recall, a positive times a positive, that's what's going in the circle, that positive sign. Now, why is that important? Because when each blank has 2 positive signs, it means we are going to add the 2 numbers that sit on the blank. And they both, as you know, with 9, are going to contain an x. Well, how do we find the numbers? Well, this is where we take the number 20. You need to think of all of the factors of 20, the combinations of 20. Now, some of you are going to be able to do this in your head. Some of you are going to take a little bit, but this one doesn't have too many. This is 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 4 times 5. Okay, we have 3 sets of factors. Now, since you already see the answer in blue, we're going to know that if we take 4 and 9 and add them together, because remember, these 2 signs in front of the blanks mean add, we're going to put a 4 here, we're going to put a 5 here. Now, could I have switched the 4 and the 5? Yes. The blanks, as long as they have the same sign, it doesn't matter where you put the 4. It doesn't matter where you put the 5. Now we're doing what we did in section 311. We are factoring by grouping. This plus sign is coming down. Taking these two terms, the GCF is x. And remember, we're dividing the x out from those two terms. When we look at the second two terms, what's in common is the 5. That's my greatest common factor. And when I divide out, I get x plus 4. Now notice right here, this x plus 4 and this x plus 4 is what is part of my answer. And remember, we're crossing out these two to get the final answer that we have in blue. Now, if you think about it and you FOIL, when you FOIL, it's going to give us this second line that we create using the blanks. It's a process of going backwards. Okay. Now, let's try it again. Okay. Now, this one. Okay. This is what we're being asked to factor. And remember, this A is a 1. Well, when it's a 1, life's easy. Okay. Now, the goal is that we want to get this answer. And this answer is going to give me x plus 3, x plus 12. This is our goal. And if you FOIL it and combine the middle terms, you're going to get this answer. So what we're doing is we're learning to go backwards. Now, let's start at the yellow and go down to the blue. The line that we would see if we FOIL is created by this setup. The x squared, the plus. Now, this 15 is going to have a blank, a circle, a blank. And behind the second blank, we put plus 36. Well, again, we have got to ask ourselves, this positive sign in front of the first blank and the sign we put inside of this blank, those two signs must give us a positive sign, which means that we are going to have a plus sign. Now, because we have a plus sign here and here, these two blanks, both of which are going to have x, because notice this 15 has x, the numbers must add to 15. Well, what numbers? You come to 36. 36 has 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, 6 times 6. Now I have 5 sets of red numbers, but which of these 5 sets adds to 15? Hopefully you know. This is the 3, this is the 12. This is what we would get if we FOIL the blue part. Now, we may get x squared plus 12x plus 3x plus 36, but the middle two, it doesn't matter when you factor where I put the 3 or where I put the 12. Both blanks have positive signs. Because they have positive signs, it doesn't matter. Well, now we do what we learned in section 311. This plus sign is coming down. These two, what is my greatest common factor? It's x. And remember, I'm dividing an x out of both the x squared and the 3x. Now when I come to the second part, what is in common with 12x and 36? 12. I am dividing 12 out. Well, notice what happens. These two are the same. And notice that was part of my answer. What's left, because remember, I am dividing these out, gives me the x plus 12. And if I take this answer that I wrote in blue and FOILed it, I will get what I started with. I'm going backwards because x squared times x squared gave me this x squared. X times 12x would give me the second blank. 3 times x gives me the first blank, and 3 times 12 gave me the last blank. I'm foiling backwards. That's the key. Like anything, we go in the door, we go out the door. We go up a flight of stairs, we go down a flight of stairs. We are doing opposites. Now, as I promised, the first 2 slides I gave you the answer first. I told you what our goal was. Well, now, in the next series of slides, I am going to just go to the factoring setup. Now, we're going to make life easy here. Okay? Again, notice that a is 1. Well, when a is 1, life's easy. This will give us x squared, which is the first term. Now this minus has got to come here. This 5 is going to be created by the blank circle blank. Now back here, this has got to have a negative 36. It's the middle term, this 5, that's going to sit here. Now, we always begin with the circle. You need to ask yourself, this negative sign times the sign you are going to put in that circle. That means those 2 signs. When I take a negative and whatever I put in the circle, it must multiply to give me a negative sign. Well, notice here, this has got to be a positive. Okay, I have two different signs. Now, unlike the first two slides I did, when the signs in front of both blanks are different, I am looking for two numbers that subtract to give me 5x. And notice I put the x's on the blank because this 5 has an x. Well, go to the number 36. This was 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, 6 times 6. Now, you can only look at these factors, nothing else. But because this is a negative and this is a positive, what two numbers in this box subtract to give me 5? Right here. Now, this is where it becomes important when you have different signs. Because this first sign is negative and my 5 is negative, this blank must have the bigger of the two numbers, which means 9 goes here, 4 goes here. It's got to have the bigger number because you remember when you subtract, the sign of the bigger number is what I'm going to use in my answer. Well, now I'm going to bring down this plus. Taking these first two terms, the greatest common factor is x. And remember, I'm dividing it out. When I look at the last two, the greatest common factor, whoops, get me. This has got to have a minus sign here. Why? Because this sign has a minus. This is going to give me a 4. And remember, I'm dividing by 4. This and this are the same. This is my third GCF, but it's a binomial. This will give me x minus 9. And remember, I'm dividing this out, which leaves me with x plus 4. Now, remember, if you FOIL this line, you will get what I started with. This line, you will get what I started with. I just went backwards. This step is a process of what I have to think. Now, over time, you're going to be able to look at x squared minus 5x minus 36 and write this answer. But it takes time to learn why that is the answer. Now let's try again. Okay. Again, we have a is 1. Now that's good so far. Okay. Now, let's set this up. Well, now you should be a pro. This is x squared plus, now remember, this 5x comes from the blank, circle, blank, and then back here is a negative 36. Now, go for the circle. This positive sign times what we put in here must multiply to give me a negative sign. Well, hopefully you know that a positive times a negative gives me a negative sign. The sign in front of 36 is the product of the two signs before each blank. Now we're going to take 36 and notice these two signs in front of each blank are different. Because they're different, we're going to find two numbers that subtract. Well, 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6. Now, just like the last slide, 4 and 9 are our answer. But because they're different, the 9x must go here, the 4x must go here. Now, this is where you have to be very careful, because this sign is negative. When we factor, okay, this negative sign is right here. We're taking these two. This is x plus 9. But this is where you have to be careful when this sign between the blanks is negative, because 4 and 36 have a negative greatest common factor. I'm dividing by a negative 4, which is going to give me a positive x plus 9. Notice that this negative divided by negative 4, and the negative 4 comes from here in front of the parentheses. Now, to finish, x plus 9, that is my third GCF, the binomial. What's left is x minus 4. And the nice part about it is, if you FOIL your answer, it better equal what we started. Huh? Now, let's take a look at this one. Okay, here we go. X squared plus blank circle blank minus 36. Now remember, a positive times this negative. These two signs must multiply to give you the sign in front of 36. Now, remember, this is going to give me 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6. Because these two signs are different, this time 2 and 18 are my numbers. Because can I subtract 2 and 18 to get 16? Oh, yes, I can. But the key is, where is the 18 going to go? Because 16 is positive, the bigger factor must go first. Now again, be very careful. When you have this circle as a negative sign, you are factoring out a negative greatest common factor. Okay, and I'm going to erase a little bit of this so that I can have some more room to write. Okay, well, we're going to bring down this negative sign. When I take these two, I'm factoring out a GCF of x. But now, when I look at these two terms, I have a negative 2 as my greatest common factor. I'm dividing negative 2x by negative 2, negative 36, 2x by negative 2, negative 36 by negative 2. This will give me x plus 18. Negative divided by negative. Well, notice these two are the same. I'm dividing these out, leaving me with x minus 2. This is my answer. And if I FOIL my green answer, I'll get what I started with. Okay. Now, let's try this one. Okay. Again, this has got a positive. That's the A. When that happens, life is nice. Now, here we go. X squared minus blank, circle blank. Now this time it's plus 36. Plus 36. Well, notice what goes in the circle. A negative times a negative gives me this plus sign. The two blanks, each sign in front of the two blanks must multiply, because we're factoring, factor means multiply, must give me this positive sign in front of 36. Now this one, we've used all of the combinations that we've been using, but this one I'm going to show you is 1 and 36. The reason is these two signs in front of each blank are the same. When they are the same, I am adding 1 and 36. They are factors of 36. Now again, I got to watch out for that negative sign. These two, x comes first, x minus 1. Now here, I'm factoring out a negative 36. This will give me a positive x minus 1. Notice what I have. This, what's here and here are the same, which means this is x minus 1. Now remember, I'm factoring this out. When I factor it out, what's left? X minus 36. And again, if you FOIL this black line, you are going to get, in this case, x squared minus 37 plus 36. we're going backwards. Now, the next one. Okay, this is why the process of setting up is real important. My A, as you see, is 1. Now, when I set this up, this gives me x squared plus blank, circle blank, plus 36. There's my plus, there's my 36. Now, I am going to find the sign that's got to sit in here. Sign is most important because it's going to tell me, do I add the two numbers on the blank or do I subtract the two numbers on each blank? Well, a positive times a positive gives me this positive sign. Okay, this sign and this sign are telling me I'm adding. Well, adding what? Well, we're going to take 36. This is 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6. Now, the beautiful part is this is all I have. Those are the only choices I have. So therefore, does any of these two combinations of factors add to 100? Okay. None of my combinations in red add to 100. So I will see one of these two answers. One of them will be not factorable. The other will be the word prime. Pearson interchanges these two answers. They're word answers because none of my combinations in red add to 100. That's why the blanks, the signs are so important. Now, if they said subtract to something, well, again, none of my combinations would subtract, and these are the only combinations I can get. Now, in this case, you're either going to see the answer not factorable, which means you're going to see that, but also Pearson uses the word prime. Prime means that this trinomial doesn't factor. It's prime. It has no factors. So this is one to watch. Now, let's look at this one. Okay, this is where you're going to have to be careful. Okay, right here. Notice there's only two terms. Well, because there's only two terms, you have to know something's missing. And what's missing is the key. This is really x squared. This is really x squared plus, now we always use a plus, 0x minus 81. This 0x is missing. You have to know that that exists. They don't write it up here in the yellow part. So now, when you put in that 0x, this is going to be x squared plus blank, circle blank, minus 81. Well, this is where the fun comes in. This positive times this negative has got to give me this negative sign. All right. Now, because a is 21, we need to get 0x in the middle. Well, 81 is 1 and 81, 3 and 27, 9 and 9. The signs are different. I am subtracting to get 0, which means a 9 goes here, a 9 goes here. I have to know that the 0x is hidden in this 2 or binomial. Well, let's watch the negative sign right here. This will give me an x. This will give me x plus 9. Now remember, this negative and the greatest common factor here is negative 9. I am dividing both of these terms by negative 9. This is x plus 9. Negative times negative. Now notice what I have here. X plus 9. What's left? X minus 9. This, if you FOIL my green part, the middle terms will cancel out because they'll equal 0. But 0 is the hidden part. You have to know 0x is there. Because remember, I don't write zeros and I don't write ones. So therefore, you have to know it exists. Now, this one, we're going to get a little different here. Okay, notice right here, a is not equal to 1. Okay, this 3 and 10 are going to be important now. But in the process that we're going to be doing, it helps a whole lot to know that. Here we go. When I start out, this is going to be 3x squared minus blank, circle, blank, plus 10. We'll go for the sign. A negative times a negative is going to give me this positive sign in front of 10. Now, this piece, when a is not 1, you must take the 3 and multiply by the 10 to get 30. 30 is the number we find as far as patterns. This is 1 and 30, 2 and 15. Now we already know that 3 and 10 gets me there, and 5 and 6. This 30 comes from taking this A term and this C term. We multiply them together to get the 30. That's going to help me fill in the blanks. Now remember, these two signs are the same. So what two numbers in this group add to 17? The 2x and the 15x. These two add to 17. Well, taking these two, my greatest common factor is x, and I'm going to get 3x minus 2. Now be careful. This is a negative sign. That means when I come over here, I'm dividing by a negative GCF, which is going to be negative 5. This is dividing by negative 5. This is dividing. This is dividing by negative 5. This is dividing by negative 5. This will give me a positive 3x minus 2. Notice how beautiful this is. This and this are the same. Because they're the same, we have 3x minus 2. Crossing them out, what's left? Now the beautiful part is if you take what I have in red and FOIL it, and that's the check that Pearson sometimes will ask you to do. You take your answer and FOIL it, and if you FOIL it, you will find that in this particular case, they are going to give you what we started with. Because remember, we're going backwards. Well, here we go. Okay, right away, notice that A is not 1, it's a 5. We're going to take that 5 and 12 in a moment and find how to make 23. Well, here we go. This is 5x squared plus blank, circle blank, plus 12. Well, hopefully by now you know this is a plus. Take the 5 and the 12, which is the A and the C, multiply it together, and I get 60. What are the factors of 60? 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20. Now, right away, I could go down and do 4 and 15, 5 and 12, 6 and 10. But when you find two numbers of 60, you don't have to keep going down if you don't want to. If you want to, that's fine. I want to add to 23. This factor of 60 works. So this gives me 3x, 20x. Taking these two, x is my greatest common factor for the first two terms. Now the plus is easy. These two terms, my greatest common factor is 4. This will give me 5x plus 3. Notice that these two are the same. I'm factoring them out, which means I'm dividing them out to give me x plus 4. This is my answer. Let's look right here. Okay. Again, I have 2 and 24. That means this A and C are going to multiply together. That's how I'm going to find what numbers make 19? This will give me 2x squared plus blank, circle blank, plus 24. 2 times 24 is going to give me 48. Now remember, I want to find positive times positive, which means I'm adding the factors of 48 to give me 19. Well, 1 and 48 don't work. 2 and 24 don't work. 3 and 16, they make my 19. Now, can you continue and find the rest of them? Yes. But if you find a set that adds to 19, because the signs tell us we got to add, you can then just fill in the blanks. The positive, the greatest common factor here is x. 2x plus 3. Now over here, this is 8. 2x plus 3. These are the same. I'm crossing them out. What's left is x plus 8. That's my answer. Okay. Now, this one's getting bigger. Okay, and I'm going to tell you that some of the ones in Pearson are not going to be nice. This 14 and this 15 are going to give us some big numbers. Can't do anything about it. It's just the way the big numbers are. And you're going to find that Pearson likes to give you some big ones. But we can take the challenge. This is going to give me 14x squared. This is going to give me 14x squared plus blank, circle blank, minus 15. Right away, we know that the blank must have a negative, which means we're looking for two numbers that subtract to give me 11. Right? Well, when you have big numbers, take the 14 and the 15 and multiply them together. Now I'm going to get 210. This is A times C. A times C. Well, here's something that makes life a little easier. 210 is a very big number, but it has a 0 at the end. When you have a 0 at the end, look first at 10 times 21. If 10 and 21 don't subtract, now they do, you would then take and try 20. Well, 20 isn't going to work. You want to find a factor that has a 0, or you can look for a factor that has 5. But this is what I'm looking for. 10 was a big number. Now remember, positive 11. 21x must sit in the first blank, and 10x must sit here. When this number has a 0, remember the rules of divisibility? Start by looking at 10s. Then look at 5s. 5 times something. 15 times something. 25 times something. rules of divisibility help a little bit. So instead of doing 1 times 210, 2 times 105, 3 times 70, you're going to need to figure out something easy, especially with these big ones. Now, taking these two terms, the greatest common factor is 7x, which gives me 2x plus 3. Now remember, be careful of this negative. The greatest common factor is -5. So when I take a -10x, I'm dividing by -5, and 15 I'm dividing by -5. This will give me 2x plus 3. What's in common? What's left? This is my answer. And notice you can always check it by foiling. That's the check that Pearson is going to talk about. Okay. Now, this is where you're going to start to see the fact that we could have a 4th GCF in factoring. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But they're going to have you look. Now, up till now, this A is not 1. So that means we're taking A and C and multiplying it together. But before we start, we have to take a look at this A. Can I divide 4 into 20? Yes. Can I divide 4 into 25? No. So even though it says you have a GCF, we don't. But we have to look. If all 3 terms had a 4 that I could divide by, and it's always when there is an A not equal to 1, I have to look for a 4th GCF. Well, since I don't have a GCF, I'm going 4x squared plus blank, circle blank, plus 25. A times C is 100. 4 times 25. But notice the beautiful part. I want 20. Well, what 2 numbers that end in 0, 10 times 10? I'm adding 10x and 10x give me this 20. The middle term breaks up into the 2 blanks. Now, these 2 terms, GCF is 2x. This gives me 2x plus 5. Plus, these 2 terms have a GCF of 5. 2x plus 5. These are the same. But notice when I cancel them out, because I do have to divide them out, what's left is 2x plus 5. Now notice that both of these parentheses are the same, which means you can also see an answer of 2x plus 5, and they stick the little exponent at the top. Because we're factoring, exponents could come into play. I have 2 parentheses that are the same, so I'm going to use those two parentheses. Now, this one. Okay. First off, a is not equal to 0, 1. That's 5. But this time, you have a GCF. You have a GCF. Because you have a GCF, I have to look. Can I divide 5x by 5? Yes. Can I divide negative 10 by 5? Yes. And notice negative 40 can be divided by 5. I have a GCF. Now, what does that GCF mean? Well, when I have a GCF, I have to put brackets. This 5 is going to divide. This 5 is going to divide out, which means I have x squared minus blank, because this term is 2x, circle blank, minus 8. Negative 40 divided by 5 is negative 8. That means that these two blanks need to come to 2x. And as we noticed, this is going to be a plus. This 2x is now the middle term. Now, hopefully you know that this will be 4x and 2x, because this 5 is out of the picture. I'm just looking at 5x squared minus 2x minus 8. I am working only with what's in the brackets. This 5 is outside, but I can't lose it yet. I have got to then factor what's inside. Well, when I take these two terms, I have an x as my greatest common factor, followed by the parentheses, x minus 4, plus, taking these two, 2 is x minus 4. Now, this 5 is sitting in front. These two terms are going to go here. I'm dividing them out, which means that this is x plus 2. This is my answer. This GCF of 5 goes out in front of a bracket, but it's got to be put back when I finish. Okay. Now, we have a couple more slides, and I've got a couple of rules or steps for people who need them. This is called the zero product rule. This states that if a product of two numbers is 0, then at least one of the numbers must be 0. At least one of them. Now, this is how it works. This next slide is a series of steps, but you're not going to get out as easy with this one because the problems are getting longer. This is going to ask you to use the zero product theorems to solve. Okay, step number 1. You must have 0 on one side. Before you even begin, you get 0 on one side. And if 0 is not on one side, you move the terms around so you do have 0 on one side. Then, this is the nice part. Sometimes it's going to be factored. Oh, you're in good shape. And if it is, you then set each factor equal to 0, and then you solve for the variable. But what happens if it's not factorable? Well, you got to factor it. That's the part that makes things difficult. It makes the problem longer. And we're going to do a couple of problems here, and I think I have a few, okay, that we are going to do. Now, some of them are real easy, but some of them, they get a little long. Here we go. Now, first off, I have 0 right here. If 0 is on one side, look at the left side. Is it factored? The answer is yes. Well, if it's factored, what I'm going to do is take x plus 5 and set it equal to 0. Then I take x plus 7 and set it equal to 0. Solve for x. This x, when I subtract 5, will give me -5. When I subtract 7, I get a -7. Now notice I have two x's, an x here and an x here. If I put in -5 in both parentheses, remember, a -5 and a +5 will give me at least 1 0. Same thing happens when I put in the -7 for x. One of those parentheses will equal 0, which is what the zero product rule says. Now, sometimes Pearson writes the answer as x is equal to 5 and x is equal to -7. But they also write it like this. X is equal to parentheses -5, comma, -7. They're either going to write it with x equals 5 and x is equal to -7, or they write it like this as an answer choice. Now, inside the brackets, you can put -7 first and -5 second. Long as both numbers are inside the bracket, you're good. Now, let's look at the other one. Zero's here. Okay, take 2x plus 1 and set it equal to 0. Subtract 1 and divide by 2. X is equal to negative, okay, come on, pen, -1/2. Take 3x minus 8, set it equal to 0. 3x is equal to 8. X is equal to 8/3. Now these two are my answers. But remember, they can put x is equal to a parentheses of -1/2 and 8/3 inside brackets. Okay? Inside brackets. Okay? Now, these were easy. The equations were factored. but this one isn't. This is where the work comes in. Okay, when you have a power of 2, one side of the equation must be 0. Okay, now this is where the fun part comes in. You have to factor the left side, which means x squared plus blank, circle blank, plus 36 equals 0. This is going to be plus. Now, hopefully you know that this is going to give me a 12x and a 3x. Remember, 36 has 12 times 3. I want 15 in the middle. This will give me x plus 12 plus 3x plus 12 is equal to 0. These are my third GCF. When I cancel them out, I get x plus 3 equals 0. I have now factored the left-hand side of my equation. And then I'm going to take x plus 12, set it equal to 0. X is equal to negative 12. X plus 3 is equal to 0. X is equal to negative 3. Now notice, I only do this part if I am solving. If you're factoring like we did in the beginning, you're not doing that. You are not doing the blue part because you would not be looking for a value that would equal 0. So be very careful. Factoring is one thing. Solving, you have to go a little further. Let's look at this one. Okay. Here's my 0. This has a power of 2. Now, when it has 0, we're in good shape. This means I'm taking x squared minus blank, circle blank, plus 36 is equal to 0. I have to factor the left-hand side. That's why we do a lot more work. And this is a negative sign. Now, because the number in front of x squared is 1, remember, I don't write 1. It's understood. I'm looking at 36, because 1 times 36 is 36. The numbers that fit on the blank that add will be 9x and 4x. They are factors of 36, or A times C. Well, this will give me x minus 9. Now watch out for that negative. I'm dividing by a negative 4. That's my GCF for the second one. Well, this will give me x minus 9. I'm dividing those out. X minus 4 equals 0. I have factored. But notice the word solve. Now I go a little bit further. This is x minus 9 equal to 0, or x is equal to 9. X minus 4 is equal to 0. X is equal to 4. Okay, just got a couple more. But this one, notice the word solve. But notice, this side is not 0. Okay. This equation is not set equal to 0. Step 1, get 0 on one side, which means I am going to have to write x squared minus 3x minus 28 equals to 0. I gotta get 0 when I see the word solve. That's the only way I can get an answer for x. Now, from here, I have to factor. And I'm factoring this part of the equation. I'm factoring this part, which means I have x squared minus blank, circle blank, minus 28 is equal to 0. This has got to be a plus sign. To 0. This has got to be a plus sign. And remember, I'm looking for 3x. 28 is 4 times 7. If I subtract these two numbers, will I get 3? Yes. But remember, it's important the bigger number go here. 4x goes here. This will give me x minus 7 plus 4, x minus 7 is equal to 0. X minus 7, these are canceling out. X plus 4 is equal to 0. I have to get to the factors. This will give me x minus 7 equals 0, or x is equal to a positive 7. X plus 4 is equal to 0. X is equal to negative 4. Now I only have 2 more, and I know you're getting excited. This will finish up the week. Okay, notice the word solve. 0 is not there. So the first thing I do is get 0. This is 6x squared minus 7x minus 5 equals 0. 6x squared minus blank, circle blank, minus 5 is equal to 0. Now, remember, this has an A, this has a C. When I multiply them together, I get 30. This is A times C. Now, this has got to have a plus in the middle. So that means when I look at 30, I want two numbers that give me 7 when I subtract. Now, hopefully you know that 3 times 10 is a good choice. But the 10x has to go in the first blank because 7 is negative. Now, taking these two terms, 2x is my greatest common factor. Now, this is where you got to be careful. I need a GCF for these two terms. Now, you're going to say, well, there isn't one. Well, yeah, there is. The number is 1. When you have no GCF, 1 is understood. And remember, I don't write 1 and zeros. But I got to have 1. These two are the same. 3x minus 5. And that's why I need this yellow 1. This is 2x plus 1. If I don't have that 1, how do I get a factor? I got to get a binomial. This will give me 3x minus 5 is equal to 0. Add 5 and divide by 3. That's my answer. 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. Subtract 1 and divide by 2. Watch out for this yellow 1. It is going to happen on occasions. If you look at the last two terms and there is no greatest common factor, you can't switch the 10 and the 3. It doesn't work like that. Because you have to have the 10 with the negative sign to match the negative here. So 10 has to sit here. You can't change those two middle terms, which means there's a 1 as a GCF. Now this will be my last slide, but this one gets interesting. We are solving. Okay. First off, there is no 0. So the first thing we do is write 2x squared plus 4x minus 70 equals 0. Now, this is where you got to be careful. You see this 2? I have a 4th GCF. Okay. This problem has a 4th GCF. It's a 2. Now, when it's a 2, remember I put the 2 in front of brackets that are going to equal 0. Divide 2 out of each term. This gives me x squared plus 2x minus 35. Now, this 2 out in front does not have an x. It's used to reduce, okay? This 2 is used to reduce the quadratic equation. We only find the values for x inside the bracket. Okay? So therefore, I'm factoring only this part. This 2, which I do have to take out. This 2, which I do have to take out. This 2 reduces. It's like a fraction. I'm reducing it so I can work with smaller numbers. This will give me x squared plus blank, circle blank, minus 35 is equal to 0. This is going to give me a minus. Now 35, I don't have to count this 2. 35 is 7x, 5x. I want to make 2. My blanks are telling me I am subtracting. So this will give me x plus 7 minus 5. Now remember, I'm dividing by negative 5. This is my GCF. Negative 35 divided by negative 5 is how this is positive 7. This will give me x plus 7, x minus 5 equals 0. This 2 doesn't have an x. Now, if it did, then I would have something else, but it doesn't. This will give me x is equal to negative 7. This will give me x is equal to positive 5. Now, if you have any questions in working with this section for homework, let me know, because factoring is a major part of mathematics. You are going to see it a lot. And know the difference. Solve means I'm doing this additional part. If it's just factor, I stop with the factors. Have a great week. Enjoy.